sees the game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself, and then that's transitioned to the game. It's huge. And I think like for me, especially as a point guard and as someone that's delivering a lot of the passes that lead to shots, like if I miss, she's definitely going to say like, you got the next one. Like I can count on her for keeping me like confident and positive.
Caitlin Clark didn't just enter the WNBA, she blasted onto the scene like a comet, recharging Indiana basketball and changing the national conversation around women's sports almost overnight. When the Indiana Fever drafted her, it wasn't just a roster move, it was a seismic shift. Suddenly, every ticket was selling out. Sports networks scrambled to rearrange their schedules. Jersey sales shot into the stratosphere, with Clark's name outselling entire teams by herself. Kids showed up to games with homemade signs, entire families driving hours for the chance to catch a glimpse of the new phenom. She brought that contagious fire from her Iowa days, where she left behind a legacy of broken records, viral highlights, and sold-out arenas for college basketball. And once she hit the pros, the question changed from, is she ready, to who can possibly stop her? Her rookie season wasn't a learning curve, it was an exclamation point. Clark was torching defenses, launching logo threes, dishing assists with surgical precision, and barking out plays like a seasoned vet. Her passion was magnetic, her fearlessness infectious. Suddenly, Indiana Fever games felt less like sporting events and more like can't-miss cultural moments. By her second year, she wasn't just a rising star, she was the axis the league spun around. The ESPN highlight reels, the trending hashtags, the talk radio debates, everything led back to Caitlin Clark. And in July 2025, her story reached a new high. She walked onto the ESPY stage in Los Angeles, surrounded by Hollywood's biggest names, and left with the trophy for WNBA Player of the Year, an award that usually goes to players with a decade of dominance under their belts. Clark beat out superstars like Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, and Nafisa Collier, making a statement that the old guard's reign had officially met its match. It should have been the start of a fairy tale summer. The All-Star Game, the three-point contest, both coming to Indianapolis, both primed for Clark to take center stage in front of her own roaring crowd. But fate had other plans. In a high-stakes showdown with the Connecticut Sun, Clark looked suddenly human. The usual bounce in her step was missing, replaced by a painful limp and a pained grimace. Cameras zoomed in on her clutching her right side, wincing after every cut. The crowd fell eerily quiet, the same arena that had spent months erupting for her now collectively holding its breath. And then came the heartbreak. Less than a week after her greatest triumph, Clark took to social media with the news fans dreaded. She was out. All-Star Weekend, the three-point contest, the festivities in her own city. Her online posts were raw and honest. She spoke of disappointment, frustration, and the pain of letting her fans down. I wanted to give you a show, I wanted to be out there, but sometimes you have to listen to your body. The heartbreak wasn't just hers. Every Fever fan, every kid in a Clark jersey, everyone who had been swept up in her story felt it too. The fairy tale was on pause, and nobody knew for how long.
The only good news about today is Caitlin Clark is no longer dealing with Stephanie White and these coaches and this Indiana Fever medical staff, trainers, doctors, none of that. She's seeing her own medical doctors, her own team. That's the only good news of today. She has abandoned the Indiana Fever medical staff, and I'm happy about it. I'm happy about it. She's pulling a Kawhi Leonard, what he did with the San Antonio Spurs, letting it be known, hey, look, I'll get back to y'all when I'm ready. I'm going with my own medical staff. Y'all can beat it, kick rocks, and I stand with you, Caitlin Clark.
But what sets real stars apart is how they handle adversity, not just applause. Caitlin Clark didn't retreat or disappear after her devastating injury news. Instead, she made a promise to herself, to her teammates, and to every fan whose heart broke right alongside hers. She'd be at All-Star Weekend, just not in a uniform. She'd bring the same energy from the bench and the stands, backing her teammates, lifting up the event, and refusing to let disappointment turn to self-pity. Her Instagram and X posts were honest, unfiltered, and full of that same leadership that made her a franchise cornerstone in the first place. But now, the All-Star spotlight had to find someone new for the three-point contest. The league and the Fever needed a shooter who could handle the heat, the noise, the pressure of representing the city and the team with millions watching. That's when the coaches made a call that every die-hard Fever fan celebrated: Lexie Hull. For months, Lexie had been the team's silent weapon. flying under the radar while draining clutch threes and locking up scorers on defense. She wasn't a media darling. She wasn't a headline machine. But in the Fever locker room, she was respected, loved, and trusted. What almost no one knew was that Lexie was battling her own storm. Just days before the contest, she lost her beloved dog, Maggie, her companion through thick and thin, the gentle soul who'd been with her since high school. The news hit Lexie hard, the loss coming at the worst possible time, and she opened up about it online, sharing black and white photos and an emotional tribute to her sweetest Mags. The outpouring of support from fans, teammates, and even rivals was immediate, turning her pain into a shared community moment. Now, with Clark sidelined and Maggie's memory heavy on her heart, Lexie was stepping into the biggest basketball spotlight of her life. On All-Star Saturday, the lights were blinding, the stakes sky high, and the pressure enormous. Hull wasn't just shooting for herself or even for the Fever. She was carrying Clark's hopes, her city's expectations, and her own bittersweet emotions right onto the hardwood. The world was watching, and Lexie Hull was ready to show them all she belonged. And then came the heartbreak. Less than a week after her greatest triumph, Clark took to social media with the news fans dreaded. She was out. All-Star Weekend, the three-point contest, the festivities in her own city. Her online posts were raw and honest. She spoke of disappointment, frustration, and the pain of letting her fans down. "I wanted to give you a show. I wanted to be out there, but sometimes you have to listen to your body." The heartbreak wasn't just hers. Every Fever fan, every kid in a Clark jersey, everyone who had been swept up in her story felt it too. The fairy tale was on pause, and nobody knew for how long.
Sophie Cunningham has been Caitlin Clark's biggest cheerleader and defender over these past few weeks. Obviously, she's a teammate. She plays on the Fever as well. She is the first WNBA player I have seen to openly say this out loud, publicly, and not be ashamed in declaring it. Caitlin Clark is the reason we have been talking about the WNBA. Hate it or love it, it's true. Maybe Caitlin Clark should do the next American Eagle campaign, or Sophie Cunningham. I don't believe that Caitlin Clark necessarily wants that title that everyone has been giving to her. I think she just wants to be appreciated. And Sophie Cunningham, she just seems like such a real one, like such a good friend. I think especially with women, especially elite level athletes, female athletes, there's a lot of people, and more specifically a part of team sports, there's a lot of people, women, who will kind of stab you in the back. There's a lot of jealousy, a lot of resentment, especially when you're good. And you have people like Sunny Hostin of The View who make the point that people like Caitlin Clark have straight privilege and pretty privilege and white privilege and tall privilege. She literally said Caitlin Clark has tall privilege. Insane. So there's a lot of jealousy there. But Sophie just seems like such a girl's girl.
The arena's energy was wild as the three-point contest began. Fans, still nursing the sting of Clark's absence, desperately needed something to cheer for. Lexie Hull, in her Fever uniform, calmly stepped to the rack. She paused for a second, just long enough for everyone to sense her focus, and then started firing. Each shot was a statement. Each swish a release of months of bottled-up emotion. Her rhythm was flawless, shoulders square, release high and pure. You could see the confidence build with every make, the crowd's volume rising in a tidal wave behind her. Every time the ball ripped through the net, the roar got louder. Social media exploded with live reactions, clips of Lexie's machine-like form, tweets calling her the silent assassin, and fans cheering her name like she'd been the superstar all along. Even Caitlin Clark, dressed in street clothes but as animated as ever, stood up to applaud, pumping her fist and shouting encouragement from the sideline. For those watching at home, the moment became a symbol. Clark and Hull, different journeys, but united by their drive, their talent, and their devotion to team over ego. When the final rack was cleared and the buzzer sounded, the arena held its collective breath. Hull had put up a score that rivaled the best shooters in the league, and for a few seconds, it looked like she might take the crown. In the end, she finished just a single shot short of the title. Second place, but a massive leap forward in her career. The crowd erupted, chanting her name, while media and analysts rushed to call this her breakthrough moment. It wasn't just about replacing Clark or filling in at the last minute. It was about rising up in the face of loss, of seizing an unexpected opportunity and making it unforgettable. The image of Clark hugging Hull, both emotional and beaming, went viral within minutes. From ESPN to TikTok, fans and pundits alike celebrated not only Hull's poise under pressure, but the special bond between teammates. One sidelined, one in the spotlight, both united by respect and resilience. That night, the narrative changed. The weekend wasn't a disappointment, it was a revelation. Lexie Hull had introduced herself to the basketball world on the grandest stage. And Caitlin Clark had proven she was a leader even when she couldn't play. For Indiana, this was more than just another All-Star break. It was proof that their story had more chapters to write and that their family was bigger and stronger than ever.
Okay, when do we ride?
Thank you. I would say that's kind of my role.
Respectful.
That's kind of, a reason that I'm out there is to try to make an impact defensively. And I know I was undersized going against DB. And so trying to just be as active as I could, get my hands on as many balls as I could, and take advantage of that. Caitlin? Yeah. We'll be done.
Oh, Lex.
In the days that followed, the sports world couldn't stop talking about what they'd witnessed. Highlight shows replayed Lexie Hull's smooth, clinical stroke over and over, slow-motion close-ups, frame-by-frame breakdowns, even side-by-side analysis comparing her shooting mechanics to the league's best. Talk radio lines lit up. Is Lexie Hull the Fever's next breakout star? Could she and Clark become the deadliest duo in the league? Even WNBA legends weighed in on national broadcasts, praising Hull's poise, her fundamentals, her ability to seize the moment and shine when the lights were brightest. Social media went absolutely haywire. Hashtags like "Your Silent Sniper" and "Osh Hull Time" started trending, while fans stitched together highlight reels and memes celebrating the Fever's newfound assassin combo. Clark with her logo range and magnetic charisma, Hull with her ice-cold precision and quiet strength. One viral post perfectly summed up the new energy. Clark brings the chaos, Lexie brings the calm. Two queens, one mission, put Indiana back on the map. But beneath all the celebration, one question buzzed louder than the rest. How long would the Fever be forced to compete without their superstar? For all Hull's heroics, every Indiana fan and every league executive knew the team's playoff dreams rested on Caitlin Clark's health. The updates from the medical staff were cautious at best, cryptic at worst. She's progressing. She's working hard. No firm timetable for return. That uncertainty only fueled speculation. Should Clark risk it all for a late-season push, or was it smarter to play the long game and keep her future safe? Podcasts debated, columnists opined, and group chats all over Indiana were buzzing with hope and anxiety in equal measure. Through it all, the Fever kept scrapping, clawing out close wins, leaning on unsung heroes like Hull and rallying behind their injured leader. But the shadow of Clark's absence hung heavy, a reminder that, as dazzling as the supporting cast was, Indiana's fate hinged on its brightest star returning at full strength.
We've seen that a couple of times, and there's a steal, 3 consecutive turnovers. It's all with the steal, it's McDonald. Pressure up the line, taking away the three-point shot, which...
It was during this period of uncertainty that the true heart of the Indiana Fever began to reveal itself. The team, battered by injuries and facing relentless pressure, showed a level of togetherness that most franchises only dream about. On social media, fans watched a beautiful display of vulnerability and support unfold. Lexie Hull, still reeling from her personal loss and the emotional roller coaster of her All-Star debut, posted an emotional message about her dog, Maggie, accompanied by a photo that showed raw heartbreak, a pain that every pet owner could feel deep in their bones. The replies poured in from every corner of the sports world, but it was 2 messages that stuck out above the rest. One from Caitlin Clark, the other from Sophie Cunningham. Clark, sidelined but never out of the fight, reached out with just a few words. Words that dripped with empathy and understanding. "You've got family here. Proud of you always. Maggie's with you forever." It wasn't flashy or performative, it was real, and fans could sense the depth behind it. Sophie, the team's fearless emotional anchor, doubled down. "Lex, we ride together, no matter what. Proud doesn't even cover it. You're loved." What could have been a week of gloom turned into a story of resilience, and unity. The trio, Clark, Hull, and Cunningham, became a symbol of something bigger than basketball. Local news outlets ran features on their bond. National WNBA podcasts started calling them the heart and soul of Indiana hoops. Fans who might have tuned in just for Clark's star power were now invested in the whole team's journey, drawn in by the genuine care, the vulnerability, the refusal to let adversity fracture their foundation. On the court, the Fever fought for every loose ball, every rebound, every win. Off the court, they fought for each other. The message to fans and rivals alike was unmistakable. You can't break this team by breaking one player. In Indiana, family is everything. And it was that loyalty, not just talent, that started to capture the imagination of the entire league. And as the regular season thundered toward its dramatic close, it became clear that the Indiana Fever were writing a different kind of story. A story less about trophies and more about character, less about stat sheets and more about spirit. Sure, the league was full of highlight machines and flashy plays, but Indiana was building something rare, a culture. The headlines began to change, shifting away from injury watch and trade rumors and instead focusing on this team's defiant togetherness. In practices, Clark worked tirelessly on her rehab, pushing to come back stronger than ever. Every time she was spotted courtside, fans erupted, holding up handmade "come back soon" signs and chanting her name. Lexie Hull, with her signature poise, kept drilling threes and playing suffocating defense, determined to show her breakout was no fluke. And through it all, Sophie Cunningham was everywhere. First to dive for loose balls, first to clap a teammate on the back, first to step up if a rival tried to get chippy. She wasn't just the team's enforcer, she was its big sister, its protector, its soul. As the Fever played on, the national media began to notice something rare. Here was a team where leadership wasn't a buzzword, but a living, breathing force. It wasn't about who scored most or who got the endorsements. It was about who showed up, heart open, for their sisters. In an era where sports are often driven by ego and individual glory, Indiana was showing the world that the greatest wins can't always be measured on a scoreboard. Fans across the league took notice. Rival fan bases began to respect the Fever's fight. Clips of the team's celebrations, the locker room jokes, the behind-the-scenes hugs started going viral for their emotion, not just their highlights. Parents told their kids, "Watch these women, not just for how they play, but how they treat each other." And the question that echoed across every broadcast was the same. Does this kind of love, this unity, this family, does it give a team an edge that stats never could? In the end, as the final buzzer sounded on another hard-fought game, the Indiana Fever's message was clear. We're more than teammates. We're more than our injuries, more than our wins and losses. We're a family, and that's what fans old and new will never forget.
Yeah, look at that.
Ready to go. Oh, yeah.
Woo! Okay. Taste test. We got our golden mugs, tumblers. They're ginormous. All right, what did you get, Caitlin?
Your camera looks a bit dirty. I got the same thing as last time because it was good.
Oh.
In a league that's always racing toward the next big stat or a highlight, the Indiana Fever are building something that can't be captured by a box score. As the summer heated up, everyone watching, from casual fans to rival coaches, could sense a shift happening right in the heart of Indiana. The Tres Leches nickname started as an inside joke but quickly caught fire, uniting Fever supporters and even winning over neutrals across the WNBA. What made it different wasn't just the skill of Clark, Hull, and Cunningham. It was the depth of their loyalty, the raw honesty of their bond. The pain Lexie felt from losing her dog Maggie rippled through the locker room in ways no one expected. Instead of being brushed aside as just life, it became a rallying point. Players comforted her in the tunnel. Coaches gave her space and support. When she walked into practice, she was greeted by a team wearing homemade #ForMaggie bracelets, a gesture that had everyone, even seasoned veterans, fighting back tears. Fans started mailing in letters and photos of their own lost pets, turning a moment of grief into a tidal wave of communal empathy. The Fever became a safe place, not just to play but to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be loved. Sophie Cunningham's presence was the glue holding it all together. Off the court, she was the ringleader of post-game meals, the joker who'd break the tension in the team group chat with a meme or a ridiculous selfie. But in the heat of the game, she transformed into the defender every team wished they had. Fierce, protective, willing to risk fines and bruises if it meant standing up for her sisters. When Clark was knocked down, Sophie was there, jaw set, daring anyone to try it again. When Lexie nailed a clutch three, Sophie was the first to leap off the bench, arms wide, voice echoing through Gainbridge Fieldhouse. This trio's chemistry wasn't just visible, it was electric, contagious, the kind of energy that made fans believe they were witnessing something rare. Parents brought their kids to games, not just for autographs, but for lessons in friendship, leadership, and compassion. Social media flooded with clips of all three sharing inside jokes, comforting each other during tough times and celebrating every tiny victory. Fans started requesting Tres Leches shirts at the team shop, and soon the design, cartoon versions of Clark, Hull, and Cunningham smiling arm in arm, was selling out online. National broadcasters picked up on it too. Sideline reporters told stories of the trio's off-court adventures, Clark and Hull helping Sophie set up a surprise birthday, or the three spending hours at local schools, reading to kids and talking about mental health. Even rival players had to admit, something about Indiana felt different. The energy, the selflessness, the way the Fever seemed to rise higher the tougher things got. It was all rooted in the bond forged between these three women. But the impact reached beyond the hardwood. The Fever's locker room became a model for other teams. Honest, open, unafraid to talk about emotions or lean on one another in tough moments. It was the kind of unity that made every win feel sweeter and every loss easier to bear. The players themselves said it best in a post-game interview. "We're not just here to hoop, we're here for each other. That's what makes us strong." As the playoffs approached and tension mounted, the Fever faced obstacles, injuries, tough losses, relentless pressure, but never wavered. Clark, Hull, and Cunningham stood together in every huddle, every team meeting, every moment of doubt. Their bond became a shield, their joy a weapon, and their story a beacon for anyone who's ever needed proof that sports, at its very best, is about love and loyalty above all else. In the end, no matter what the standings said or how the season ended, the Indiana Fever had changed the game. They'd created a legacy of family, strength, and true sisterhood, one that will be talked about long after the buzzer sounds. And for every fan who watched, who cheered, who cried along with Lexie, who felt inspired by Caitlin's fight or Sophie's ferocity, it was clear, this wasn't just basketball. This was the kind of story you carry with you. Proof that when teammates become family, anything is possible.